deep breath with this. Deep breath. Okay. Hi guys. My name is Nasija. If you're new to this channel, I am a tarot reader. You know what? I hate labels, honestly. I'm a spiritual practitioner, let's just say that, among other things, if I have to label myself. But this video, I lost my friend to Jesus a couple of weeks ago, and I want to talk about it, okay? Because it was an extremely cosmic event, and it was just so cosmic, but the divine was guiding me to make podcasts and kind of these, like, share my story times for so long, and I had kind of, like, I used to do a blog, like, started, stop, and it's finally time that you guys go on this journey with me, because being a spiritual practitioner, being a healer, I hate those titles, just being me, I have some really crazy stories that really happened in my life. My life is very cosmic, and I'm just grateful. So if you're here, you're down for the ride. We have a lot of story times. We have a lot of lessons that we've learned. Please share your stories with me as well here about this topic, about other topics here. I also would love to do, like, Zooms with you guys too, and we could talk and we could share, because we ultimately learn the most through life, okay? I don't believe we learn the most via meditating or in our little hubs, and we can learn a lot, but through our life experiences. So this is a life experience. Tarot reader loses a friend to Jesus, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my religious views, and that isn't even the biggest moment here, but let's talk about it. So a couple weeks ago, I had made a friend online, and I was drawn to her immediately. I was drawn to her, and I would get some readings from her. And I have this thing where I really root for people, because I have been the underdog in my life. I have been abandoned and ostracized at certain times in my life, not even due to, like, spirituality, but we'll get into some of those. Some of you guys, like, know my story about racist attacks I went through in high school and everything. So, like, I'm always rooting, especially for women, and supporting small businesses, and, like, I inspire people to raise their prices and stuff like that. So I see this girl, really like her energy. She would post horoscopes and everything, and I hit her up, and I had gotten this, like, download, kind of, like, about her, and it was kind of like one of those, like, crazy outrageous downloads, but she's in spiritual community, so I was like, she's not gonna think this is weird. But the point of it was to say, like, girl, you're amazing, you're awesome, take your business more seriously, like, raise your prices, like, you're meant to be very successful. And I genuinely thought she was meant to be very successful in spirituality. And this was just me talking. I don't do any, like, I wasn't doing magic or whatever, and that's fine. But no. This was literally just me seeing a girl, wanting to support her, and we became pretty close after that. So we would talk pretty often, and it's really interesting, because you guys know I do have other friends, but my best friend, anyone have that friend that's always right, or that person in their life is always right? But I kind of told my best friend about her, and she was like, don't get too attached. Because she knows me. She knows I'm sensitive. She's like, don't get too attached. No, I'm kind of cute. Don't get too attached. And I was just like, because anytime this friend says something happens, whatever. But I had the softest spot for this girl. And again, I have this thing sometimes that's like freaking Mother Hen, Mother Mary, that just sees someone, and I've learned some harsh lessons because of it, and I just want the best for them, and I'm rooting for them, especially when they're POC, and I'm just like let's, like, thrive and eat and stuff, like, you know what I mean? So we're having these very deep conversations, and she's an air sign, not my best friend, but the girl, she was an air sign. I do have an air moon, so anytime I'm talking to air signs, there's this openness with them. Like, I just feel more open with them. But I was really, really open with this girl. I shared about my, like, family members with her, some stuff that I was going through. There was a lot of intensity collectively going on at the time. This was, again, only a couple of weeks ago, because just right now still there's intensity going on due to the war in Gaza. And yeah, so basically I It was a sensitive time. She was going through some pretty heavy emotions and depression. And we were each other's support system. But I started getting the intuitive alarm. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Myself, even after my friend had said something, but not because my friend had said something. Like afterwards, I started getting, this is how spirit works. They usually like to remind me of other people. That's what they do. Other people in my life that are no longer in my life, when they're trying to send me an alarm about someone. And I started remembering a friend that I had in high school. And me and her we were pretty close, of course. I was not into spirituality at that time, by the way, other than like horoscopes, like everyone, like it was not. My spiritual journey started in college. So this was like before that time, but I was always eccentric. Like I took acting class. Like I was always entertainment. I was always pretty eccentric. I was always pretty bold. Like it's not really a surprise for anyone that I'm in spirituality. They thought I'd be doing something, or doing social media, because I always give off that vibe. But this friend, she's Muslim, and we were pretty close. And I've always made friends with Muslim people. And again, I think I could jump to my views here. I would say I'm agnostic. I believe that's a word for when you kind of someone had given me a different word. I think is it monotheistic? I don't think so. I don't know. Someone gave me a different word, but I've learned it was agnostic, and it's when you're open to many different religions. I'm not under like one religion. I'm open. I just love anything that sounds like God. And for me, God is, and I say God, I believe in God, but God is love, it's source energy, and I love anything that brings me back to faith and so I love faith. I love the energy of faith, and I love Islam. I think it's beautiful to see people come together, and it's I could feel it in the room when I'm around Muslim people. I could feel it, but I could also feel it in church with Christians. So like I don't have anything. I would still go to church and everything too, but where the lines get drawn is the closed-mindedness, it's the judgment, and it's the things that really just do not sound like it makes sense at all. The ignorance. I'm not with that. That's where I got to take a step back. But I always believe in take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And even, tarot readers, in person, whatever, take what resonates, because a reading is a read. A read is a read. Whether you want to say it's with tarot cards or somebody preaching to you, it's still a read. And that's on that. Take what resonates, leave what the heck doesn't. So I would still see, I love a word. I love a word. I love a read. I would still see a pastor, a preacher, whatever, pop up in my TikTok and just take it because I love a word. And a lot of times, sometimes it's exactly what I need, whether or not they want to, work with me or not, or whether or not they even want to, whatever. God just be speaking through people. And I always believe you never know who God could speak through. God could speak through a child, but God speaks through our own children a lot of times. I don't have kids, but you know what I mean. God could speak through someone you don't talk to anymore. God could choose anyone to speak through, and that's a part of the lesson of can you recognize God, and that's on that. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go back to the point. But I had this friend, and the older we got, we had other issues, but the older we got, of course, we started to figure out, okay, who we are, and I started getting tattooed, especially after I went to college. It became very apparent that we are going two different ways in life, but she was my best friend. My first tattoo, actually, is based on her, something that she inspired, so... because she helped me out of depression, and I don't have anything against her. I genuinely wish her well. It's just her beliefs and everything, so our beliefs were not able to keep us in a very strong friendship, but sent her so much respect for her. She really helped me through a lot. But she kept coming up in my mind, and another event kept coming up in my mind, and this is kind of the main event of this conversation. So basically, this was a year ago. My mind has a thing where I can forget time periods when something really traumatic happens to me. And I kind of block things out. It's kind of patchy and spacey here. So I genuinely don't remember if this happened last year or the year before. I do think also after 2020, things were traumatic for a lot of us. My whole life completely turned upside down. So timelines in general from 2020 is kind of difficult for me to remember exactly when things happened. But sometime, basically, I was going through... I do think it was 2 years ago. But I was going through depression. Depression has been a cycle in my life. I went through a lot of childhood trauma. When you go through a lot of childhood trauma and PTSD, healing is a lifelong journey for everyone, but my healing is it's a sensitive journey, basically. So it can go and come sometimes, but I was going through this time and it made sense. Basically, I had lived my whole life like with my parents, and then I went to just dorm in college. But after getting my first apartment and having that responsibility, it's so interesting because they say even though with my parents, things weren't always perfect. My family's pretty helpful, but things, not just financially, not always financially, but in terms of just coming together and like helping each other. Like if I need food, my mom will cook, stuff like that. Like, like in terms of just family building community. So I was used to still that family unit. And after getting my own apartment, and I think the interesting thing is I've heard this before, sometimes when you are so used to growing up in chaos and trauma, which I grew up in that home, when you get a moment of peace, that's when most of your fight or flight kicks in, and that's what happened. So most of my fight or flight kicked in after living alone, and so many habits that I thought I had healed from came back, because for the first time in my life, not only am I living alone, I had way more financial responsibility, and definitely my apartment's greatest blessing for me, definitely God came through with that. The divine came through, also my prayers, manifestation. But my apartment, interestingly enough, it was manifested, kind of, but there's so much about how it happened that I know there was so much. Manifestation is we're co-creating with the universe. It's divine involvement, but there was so much divine involvement in my apartment. But the way it came, my business happened, so much started that was new, because I had started my business recently too. For the first time, I'm managing so much finances. It was extremely overwhelming for me. I was petrified, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know how to handle so much in my life. And but I had to independently. I made decisions, and I knew it was the right decisions for me. But still, there was so much learning. I made a lot of mistakes with my business when I started. I also first time dealing with so much clientele. I made mistakes. I recognized okay, you got to work on some character building, girl. You cannot get triggered and respond. So there was a lot that I was dealing with. I jumped from college student, whatever, to businesswoman, and dealing with a huge clientele and following, whatever. So I went into a shock mode, fight or flight, in terms of but it was very normal. It was very normal. At that time, also being into spirituality, I'm very grateful, by the way. My best friend that I talked about, interjecting, that gave me the intuitive download, which take a step back, or don't get attached to this girl. She was also my mentor. She was an English teacher, very, very grounded. My mentor as well. And her version of spirituality was extremely grounded. It wasn't this woo-woo, carried away. No. She's very grounded. She integrates. I tell people her name is Amila, Soul Healing with Amila. But I tell people she's gonna look at me so sideways right now. Amila has a cigarette and Red Bull for breakfast. She's not, no. She's Eastern European. She's very Bosnian. She's very grounded. You know what I mean? Very balanced and integrated with humans. So that is the best approach, because so much of how it was psychology, the shadow work, it was all psychology. It was actual freaking therapy that I was going through, and I'm so grateful which I also attracted her, because I don't think my spirit would have allowed me to be completely carried away ever. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. But yeah, so basically, going back to the point is, I'm always I'm a nerd 10, very, very practical with things. But at the time, escapism, the root of all, okay? Escapism I was terrified. I was scared of not being able to handle everything that I had started, I was scared of my foundation falling apart. I was scared of, and that was very fair for someone. I'm the first one in my family to, have a business like that, be able to move forward. Life was moving forward really fast. The divine was progressing me, showing me I'm meant to be here, but I was making mistakes. I was petrified. So I kind of went into depression at the time. I didn't fully go into the depression. I came out of a lot of it this year, but I was going into the deep end and like trying to hold on at the same time. But I was falling down the freaking rabbit hole. And in this time of hysteria, also I wasn't sharing so much with my mom because I just didn't want her to freak out. But Amila knew a lot of what was happening and what I was going through, my dad, everything. And yeah, I was going through this really confusing time, you know, but there was like a family event basically. So also there was family things happening with my sister, my younger sibling. And my mom had basically, and she wasn't doing it purposely at all, but there was a family friend that we still have, and this is all forgiven, by the way. I've worked through this, but a family friend, that's how I can talk about it, that I had that, for my sister, they were going to do a prayer for her because she was going through a lot of mental health stuff at the time. And I wasn't sharing what I was happening. Mind you, again, I was kind of doing the mentorship with Amila at the time. I was doing my own inner work, and that was what I felt comfortable with. So where I was, it wasn't like falling off the deep end at all. It was just, I felt like everything was very normal that I was feeling, and I was just trying to find my way. I'm 25 now, and 2 years ago I was 23 years old. Like, what 23-year-old, 20-year-old isn't freaking lost at that time? So I was just handling my business. I was handling my business normally, but they invited us to go do this prayer and cleansing for my sister. And I'm the type of person, again, I am pretty much, well, now with discernment, but before I was always open to receive prayers and blessings and everything, because again, use energy sending is positive, you know what I mean? But with discernment, because people put I've learned a lot with that, you know? But again, like, if someone is just saying, I'm praying for you, I'll receive it, right? So we go to the prayer thing at our family friend's house, and our family friend, he knew what I did, older gentleman. He knew what I did, and it was a very safe space when I did it. They like praised me for it and everything. But when we went, he told me to tell, and I never met these ladies, okay? And it was like a church group of like ladies. I think Christian, I don't really know, but it gave like kind of Orthodox. Like, whatever, but I don't know this woman, you know, I don't know these people, but I'm a kind person, I'm receptive. They didn't even, but again, I went there, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking about stuff that I gotta figure out, my routines gotta do, everything, money, I gotta figure out everything in my life, like a normal person. So, I'm there, and he tells me to tell him what I did. And I tell them, and the vibe changes in the house. Now, granted, it was really early in that morning because I went from New York to Jersey about like 7 a.m. or something. And the vibe changed in the house. And I was like, okay, I shouldn't have done that, you know, but I felt safe because this wasn't news. I thought this was going to be like, I thought these were accepting people. I was very mistaken. And the lady goes upstairs. People start getting up from the eating table, whatever. And she goes upstairs. She starts praying. And I didn't know she was doing all of that, you know. But in that moment, it was like, again, mayday, mayday, something about to go down. Something about to go down. So basically, we were there again for my sister. We were not there for me. Long story short, I don't really want to tell, you know, because it was kind of traumatic, but long story short, they start this big parade, and it was a big learning lesson for me because the lady starts kind of seeing things, like she starts kind of like seeing things, like prophesizing some things, and in that moment, so much was happening. I felt so vulnerable because my inner child that was in cycles of people pleasing at the time was like validating, because I came from, my family's Caribbean, you know, West Indian, and I was raised in like a very grounded, respectful way. Like, you don't speak back to your elders, you don't do certain things. So like that inner child, like this grown woman, these women, you know, are like telling me things about myself. I was very into like, I was people pleasing. At that time, and I was just like, yeah, like trying to be respectful. Like, that's my vibe, you know. I've never been a kid to like talk back that much, whatever. My parents is kind of different, but in terms of distance, like respect, you're in someone's house, like that's what I've been taught. So she's telling me all these things. Not all of them resonate, but I'm kind of just people pleasing. She said that I was like dealing with insecurities, which I was, but at the same time, like, but still, I'm not doubting. Everyone's intuitive. Everyone can tap into intuition, but it's what you do. You can also, there are also people that tap into intuition and can manipulate and project their own feelings into that information and their own belief systems. So even if she was picking up on things at that time, it's not supposed to be, and this is a lesson for everyone, it's not supposed to be woo, magical, amazing. No, you still got to ground yourself. You still got to use discernment. You got to take what you need and leave them rest. You know what I mean? But they start praying, and the biggest thing from all of this, they basically start like saying like how obviously they're saying everything I was doing was demonic, which was like reading cards, and I didn't really like agree, but I was flustered and I was confused and I was in a really vulnerable spot, like I said. So I started crying because I was in a vulnerable spot. And the worst thing that they told me was what was happening with my sister's mental health was because of me. And God knows, a lot of people that know me personally, that is such a sensitive situation for me. Like, that is one thing I don't mess with at all. Like, that's my baby. Like, I don't, you know. So when they told me that, I felt that was the key. That was a key in the door. That was a key in the door. And I was not strong enough at the time to fight. At the time, I was not strong enough because it was like the idea of, it was like save her. That's what happened. Very sensitive situation. So all my intuition, everything went out the door at the time, and it alluded to them still kind of, you know, pushing themselves, but I had kind of opened the door to them. I did. And it alluded to, basically they came into my home and threw away all my cards and burned it. And that's, yeah. And of course, after that, I was like, okay, this is my business. And their grand plan was for me to like join the church with them and work with them. And basically after that time, that's when like the depression really started to come on after that happened, because I had kind of went in, after they said that thing about my sister, I went into this disassociation where it was like people were literally talking to me and I was just like blank in a sense. So I was just saying whatever. I didn't have to enter, like I was just saying whatever they wanted at that time. I felt so depressed. Like I said, the fear overwhelmed me. I felt scared, but it was really interesting where everything, like literally the way I am right now is how I was for months, like for months, a year. It was just kind of like, and Amila was like sending me positive energy and everything too. But even when I had told her I was going to throw away the card, she was just like, listen, you got to go through this process yourself. She was like, I love you regardless, you know, and she was like, you're freaking intuitive. You don't need it, but still you got to find your way. And it was a part of my self-discovery. And in that time, in that space, and some of you guys, I haven't told like this first beginning. Yes, there is a video on my page that says, and I'll try to like tag it here, that said, God told me to do tarot, and you guys will hear in that beginning video. But yeah, it was really interesting. For weeks, I just felt like everything was dark. I just felt like I was in darkness. I felt like I had died, to be honest. I really did. I don't think I left. Like, I think I wore like a big t-shirt. Like, I physically felt like standing up was hard for weeks. And I wanted everything to end. I really did. And I didn't attempt anything, but everything just, I wanted everything to disappear. Like, I just wanted the movie scene to end. I wanted everything to just end. I didn't want to be on Earth anymore. Life felt too hard. Everything, I didn't know what I was doing. I was confused and conflicted, and it was a really dark time. And there was no strength in my voice. And then in that time, which was interesting, was in a weird way, I did end up finding God. But not the God that they were talking about. Because I did start praying deeply again. I did start journaling deeply again, because I kind of, with all the like glitz and glam of the beginning, like TikTok started blowing up for me, whatever. I did disconnect a bit from what I started when I started my spiritual awakening, which was about me healing. But with the clients and everything, I stopped healing myself in a deep level. I started focusing on healing other people. But in that time, it was literally just me and God. It was like I was in a dark room and it was just me and God. It was me and this voice. And I was like, what are you? What is this? And that was my awakening to God. But not in that way. It was interesting because they were like, read your Bible, and I kind of read the Bible and not agree with or not even like, it was like there was like all this questioning happening. Not really not agree, but it just was like, I gotta also think for myself. You know what I mean? That's the only way I could say it. I don't know if you guys are in this journey with me right now as I'm saying this, but it was like I did feel God. I did talk to God in that moment, but it wasn't the God that they were telling me of. And I think it's so interesting because in that time, these women, these people, I was learning more about them, who they were as people, other than their faith, okay? And I was hearing about the mistakes that they've made in their life. And what I learned in that moment was, oh, these are all people that are running from facing their own life choices, their own human decisions, and running to this God and calling themselves holier than thou. And again, here's the thing though, and that's where I had to, because I went through my process of being angry, but I had to recognize, I was just like, I think that I believe that once you say God is such a strap word, is such a strong force. It's same thing with the universe, okay? It's all in one. God, the universe, love. But once you say that, if you're calling upon God, immediately even if you're talking about a very limited God, the real God is going to start fighting for you. That's what I believe in. So immediately you go into kind of a spiritual warfare, but with yourself. And if that makes sense, it makes sense. Like, because immediately your human ego is going to be like, oh, this is what I've learned and this is what it is. And it's crazy because yesterday I was talking to one of my other aunts, which also led me to making this video. And she was saying something about LGBTQ, old Caribbean woman, something not too nice. And I cut her off. And we had this, and I started preaching to her, and I got really passionate about, religion and all this stuff. And I said, no, the God that you have learned, I was like, have you sat with God yourself? What's God mean to you other than what you've learned? So again, all alluding to this video. Someone definitely needs this if you're still here. But yeah, I sat with God in darkness for months. Everything else in my life, darkness and confusion. I saw my money going down. I saw everything, and I just couldn't. I was barely getting it. I sat with God in darkness. And then I bought my deck again. And then I bought 2 decks. And then I bought my decks again. And yeah, it's weird because I still don't even have the words for that other than I recognize it was nonsense. And it was crazy because it's December now and it was Christmas. And I didn't tell anything to my mom yet. I didn't, whatever. But on Christmas, I couldn't hold back the conversation. Like, after we had opened gifts and everything, and I went to my mom, and the only person I didn't know was my dad. And my dad's a Pisces. My dad is like me. I get a lot of things from my dad because he doesn't know. Like, he's built his own relationship with God, his own understanding of God. He doesn't even call God like a man. That's how my dad is. So I pulled my parents inside, and I just started bawling, and I told my mom, I told them what really happened. I opened up to them. And I said, I felt incredibly manipulated. I felt incredibly, that's how I felt. And, they comforted my mom, apologized. It was a very deep thing. And it was on Christmas Day, which I think is very significant. And it shifted me. And I still had to, in that moment, it was like, oh, everything was perfect. No, because that moment brought up a lot of inner child stuff about feeling unprotected, growing up with my parents. And I recognized how many shadows I had to heal. I recognized my whole life could not just be about this business. I also need to take the time to heal me. I need to find more balance. And that was not easy. I'm still finding that balance. I have a lot to work through and I have a lot to heal. And I pray to God and everything, but I'm co-creating with God. If God is giving me resources, if God is giving me tools, if God has given me sense, then I'm going to have to use all of which to get to the healing, to get to the inner working. And God and my angels are helping me behind the scenes, and they are healing. But a lot of people don't realize that God is putting these tools in front of you to create your life. You ask God, God done already answered the prayer. God done already calling you. 50 times God is calling you, and you ignoring it. God been calling me to do this for so long. So God put another situation in my life for me to be like, boom, knock me upside the head. To remind me. That's all she was a reminder. A reminder of my voice, a reminder of my truth, a reminder of another gift that God had given me, which was my voice and my story and my truth. Because somebody needs this. Build your own relationship with God and your own understanding of God. Okay? And, it was interesting because in that time when they were projecting and making me feel like a horrible person, I thought about the fact, and I don't practice any, and I'm not but I'm just being clear because some people may wonder, but I don't practice any magic. But I have done candle work in the past, but I don't hex anyone. I used to dabble kind of in love spells back in the day. I'll be very honest with you. Didn't really know what the hell I was doing. That was when I first started spirituality, and I saw Pinterest and everything, but nothing too crazy, more manifestation stuff. But nothing, it's all clear, nothing crazy, nothing whatever. So, little petty things. So, yeah. You know what I thought about? I thought about the fact that there's a lot of horrible people in this world. There's a lot of people who do heinous things. And a lot of those people who do heinous things are in our governments. They're in higher positions right now. They're walking free. They're men living in their house that they're destroying and eating food and in big companies and in big positions right now. Most of them are not even in jail. There's a lot of people who do horrible things in this life. And I thought about women, because a lot of spirituality, it's such a feminine energy as well. And I thought about things like the witch trials, and I thought about how much shame women has held on to and guilt in their life because of toxic masculine structures. Because those same women, very significant, that I was there with and they were preaching to me, that comes from a sense of masculine energies. The main woman that was talking to me was telling me actually about her husband who was doing marriage counseling in the church and abusing them at home. And she was lying to everyone about who he actually was and had to get away from him. That's what it is. And I recognize that what a spiritual awakening is. Spiritual awakening is healing on a deep core level. It's healing. You find God through the healing. You find that God is within. That's why they say God is within, because you got to go through the layers, babes. You got to peel it back. That's how you find God. And when words are very powerful and prayers are very powerful. When you are praying, and baby, you are praying and you are healing. When you are asking for change, God will change you. I got a pastor, I got a preacher within me, honey. I'm black. My ancestors. It's powerful, but it's healing. We are here to heal. We are here to learn, and we are here to grow. We are not here to bypass. That goes for spirituality as well, too. We are not here to escape. We are here to face the world. We are here to be real. We are here to be human. And that requires facing the human existence and working through it and working through the shadows and healing. And when you heal yourself, you truly do heal the world. And that's what I learned. I can't just be doing this work. I got to be healing myself as well. So let's go back to this friend. because I was getting the signs. I was remembering the friend in high school, and I just had this feeling, and and then Spirit was reminding me of the situation that happened. So I had the conversation with the friend about the situation that happened, and it was crazy because I was on live one day and I just was randomly talking about it, but nothing was so random. Spirit was like reminding me, they're like, hey, something might be coming. Something might be coming. Me and this girl were really close, really freaking close. Getting close. We didn't know each other for much long, but we were pretty close. And she brings up to me how she's no longer feeling connected to her cards, which was fine. Like, you know, like, it's okay. Didn't think anything of it. But again, I was also ignoring my intuition like crazy. And you also don't, even if you were reading, you don't need to be using cards. So, like, I don't need my friends to all be using cards. Like, I still have, you know, like I said, I'm agnostic. Like, I have friends from different religions and everything. The thing is, they don't judge me. So I don't have a problem. I don't care. Even if you're a reader, you don't want to do your business anymore, you want to go and do something, I don't care. You know, but still, the requirements to be my friend, though, I will say, because is to still be self-aware, to still be working on your inner work and healing. And all the people in my life are trying to grow. All of them are, align with self-development, even if they're a doctor. It doesn't matter. I don't care, because I don't know if my own kids may want nothing to do with spirituality. I don't give a damn. You know, this is literally what I do. But at any point, I could try to do something else. And again, everything's spiritual. This is just a literal sense of it. But so she tells me that I don't really care. I'm like, okay. So, and again, so much of our conversations have also been self-growth and everything too. And then she tells me that she was really feeling connected to Jesus. So I got really excited when she told me this, because, and I'm a very passionate person, if it isn't obvious. I have a Mercury in Aries. I'm very passionate. So, and it was a really passionate time, high-sprung time, because I was also speaking up so much about what's going on in Gaza. And I was speaking up so much. I was at war with a lot of people, you know, during that. I was getting crazy DMs for speaking up about that and everything. But, yeah, so she talks about Jesus, and I'm excited because during that time of self-discovery, I was doing, like, a lot of studying myself. I read Jesus and the Scenes by Dolores Cannon, but I was also listening to so many of, like, YouTube stories, documentaries. I was just, like, I was in a study. I was in a rabbit hole. I'm actually staring at this book right now. The Joshua channeling here. So I was really excited. So I was like, oh my God, like, this is cool. Like, I can share so much with you. Like, you should, whatever. And I was speaking really passionate about it. And then I started speaking about, what she knew about it. I started speaking about, like, what I believe Jesus would have wanted. And I'm like, Jesus was a human being. Jesus was human, a man. That was, like, literally. And he was a human, and he was a divine, he was a divine awakening himself, a walking divine awakening, where he was meant to help people recognize that we are all messengers. We all have God within. We all have intuition within. And, thank you, Spirit. Yeah. So I was just saying, I don't think Jesus would not want his name or his word to be preached that way. But anyone can access, even though he was a man, once you're in the spirit realm, you can be accessed to here. And Jesus is a powerful force. So when you pray in the name of Jesus, absolutely, that's a powerful ass prayer. It is. It's still power in it. You know, so just like you say Archangel Michael or you know, any of the other archangels. So there's no problem with that, you know, but I was like, but the restrictions around the word of Jesus, because there's this video that says, if Jesus were alive today, he would be on the people's side. Jesus would not be worrying about no big, high government. No, Jesus would be with the people. Jesus would be with the brown people, with the POC. Jesus would be with us. Jesus would fully be into this. What? Jesus would fully be into this. Jesus would be denouncing all the nonsense. Okay, all the nonsense, all the lies, all the people speaking on Jesus's name here, okay, and configuring things to control. So I thought we were on the same page. So I'm really passionate about it, and I'm telling her all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, it's just the judgment is not okay, and people use Jesus's name, you know, for so much power and control. And she was getting a bit sensitive. She was getting a little sensitive, okay, a little turned off. So that was a big red flag. Pretty red. And she got pretty emotional about it, and she was like, well, I feel really judged right now. And I was really confused because I was like, you know I'm passionate. Like, you know which was a big red flag for me because everyone in my life are very opinionated. Like, my closest cousin, which is like my best friend, is a Virgo. Most of the people, I have a Virgo North node, so expression is a big thing in my life. But she's a Virgo. Most of the people in my life have Virgo placements or like Leo placements, whatever. So they will say their opinions in a room full of people. They don't care if they're in front of a president. We will debate like hell. Like, me and Amila will debate like hell. We will whatever. So this was something that I had already showed her this part. I was just like, wait. So it became, I was just like, listen, if you're going to be friends with me, listen, I'm very open. We don't have to agree with things, but if it's going to me being silenced, this is maybe a problem, you know? And if like, so I kind of started seeing her being like, no. And then she brought up Kat Von D's conversion and what Kat Von D said, which really pissed me off because what Kat Von D said. She said that everyone who does spirituality and readings is broke, which the audacity to the level of audacity to come out of a multi-million-dollar mouth. Stay in your corner. I really don't think celebrities should be saying anything. Anyway, about general public. But again, okay, so she was kind of bringing that up. She was bringing up whatever, but then she was still in this limbo phase of like, yeah, but I don't believe everything. I don't believe everything. Very sensitive place. So I was just like, okay, you know, and, but after that, which is really interesting, my life had gotten really busy. So the divine kind of chiming in. I had gotten really freaking busy. And, there was, and then I had, and then she had posted that she's no longer doing her business anymore. And I was just like, okay, like still, I was like, interesting. All right, that's fine. But supported her, commented under her picture, like whatever, told her I supported her. Which after that conversation we had, I was like, girl, I don't care if you do, like you stop doing readings. Like generally, not everyone in my life does readings at all. Like some of my closest people, they don't. And she was just like, yeah, no, like that's, but it was fine. It was fine. At least I thought so, you know, but I got super busy. So there were other things in my life that was demanding my attention. I'm still really busy because I'm doing this. I have so many readings to do. So, yeah. So like a week or whatever later, she says, she posts she's going to stop her business, and that was fine. Didn't have anything, reached out to her, but still I wasn't in a place that much where I could have like a full conversation. And, probably like a couple of days after, this was extremely triggering for me, and I'm not gonna lie. But I wasn't, even though it was triggering for me, healing. I know my emotions are my responsibility. I'm mature enough to know that. I did talk through it with myself. This was not for me to project onto anyone else. She posts that she threw away all her cards. So that was a little different for me, because I was just like, okay, this might get a little which, by the way, when we had that conversation, I told her, I was just like, girl, I support you. It's fine. If you're being connected with Jesus, that's a beautiful thing. But if it gets to a point, and I told her about my friend in high school, I was just like, if it's getting to a point where you're listening to the church to the point that you look at tarot and it's bad, this is what I do for a living, and this is how I appear on social media. So I don't see how, if you get really deep into the church, how you can be receptive and actual genuine supportive with me or call yourself a best friend or anything like that. And she was like, no, I'm not really getting in church, whatever, it's fine. It's okay. So I see she threw away all her cards, and immediately the flag got more red, like piercing red, because it was just like, okay, you throwing away all your cards in your house, your cards that are not doing anything to you, by the way, but you throwing them away is you saying that you don't feel safe with this energy in your house. So if you don't feel safe with this energy in your house, how the damn hell you gonna feel safe with a reader? Like, I just didn't understand. But I didn't say all of that, and it was a conversation that I was like, again, working through, because I would have wanted to have that discussion with her later, because we talked about everything, but not in terms of way just for her, just for me to be open and honest, but not in a way of me projecting on her. So, but again, I was pretty busy, divine intervention, and there was like something that happened, and we ended up like talking a little bit. Not between me and her. In my personal life, she ended up saying, like, talking, it was like, fine, support you, great, not a problem. And it was interesting because, like I said, a couple of days went by. This only happened 3 weeks ago, so a couple of days went by after, and I was about to go to sleep, and I saw this we hadn't talked because we didn't talk every day. Like I said, I was busy. This TikTok popped up. It had 0 likes, 0 whatever. I don't even know the creator. I think it was like a new creator, and it had 0 likes, 0 whatever. And I immediately heard in my head, Spirit has said, listen to this. This is directly for you because you're going to need it. You're going to need it. It was loud. I was like, okay. I was about to shut my eyes. Played TikTok. And the girl says, don't be surprised if you're randomly blocked by some people. Because in this season, some people are just going to block you. And the reason why, don't take it personally, is because you're coming out of alignment and you're shifting and it's time to take your purpose more seriously. So I was like, no, that's crazy. We talked the other day. Everything was cool. We were fine. Like literally like a couple days ago. No way. No. Yes. Something told me to go check. Honey, I was blocked. She said block. She said blocked. Everywhere. And my little inner child naive ass still went to go text her, did you block me? Honey, I was blocked to the level of blocked. Gone. Disappeared. Erased. And I was like, wow. Now I will say, anytime anyone, and I'm very serious with that prayer, God remove anyone in my life. I was like, when's the last time I did that prayer? That don't serve me, because you know that prayer be working with a quickness now. A quickness that be working. God, please remove anyone from my life that don't serve me. They gonna be done removed now. And it was interesting because at that time, the little shakeup that I had was I asked Jesus. I said, Jesus, I need you to show me a sign if I'm on the right path. I need you to show me a sign. I need validation from you. And within an hour, I had a sign. And I said it to myself silently because I know the algorithm if I speak out loud. So I said it in my head. And I saw a video pop up, and it was a letter from Jesus talking about purpose. And it was a person in spiritual community too, talking about purpose and aligning with your purpose and focusing on yourself. And the interesting thing was I had went out with my cousin. We just went to go get dinner, and we went to Barnes & Noble after, and I didn't really need any books. I was kind of lit. I was kind of tipsy that night. And this happened in between, before I knew I was blocked. And I went out with her to just get dinner. We went to Barnes & Noble, and I felt this calling. I was like, there's something I need to get in here, but I don't know what. And this literally happened, y'all. This is how my life is super freaking cosmic. And that night ended up with us getting a reading from someone. And the same in the reading was like, follow your purpose. You need to align with your purpose. Keep working with God, archangels, whatever, everything. So in the, so basically I went to Barnes & Noble, and I just felt pulled. I was like, I feel like there's something in here, but I had no intention of really getting like a book or anything. I didn't need any more decks. So I see this book, and it's like shining to me. It's like shining, and I was like, what is this book? And it said, I kind of have it. I have it in audiobooks because I'm an audiobook girly. It's actually 3:03 on my clock right now. Let's go ahead and see the book. Apple Books. All Our Hidden Gifts. All Our Hidden Gifts. So I see this book, and I'm just like, I feel like I need to read that book, like, right now. Like, what is that book? And I pick it up, and it literally feels warm in my hand. Like, it feels like home. And I was just like, what is this? And I turn it over, and it says, a girl who feels lost in her life starts reading tarot cards. Yo, this really did happen. I swear to God, it happened. And this book is basically my life story in a different dimension, in a different way. She wasn't good at school. She was rebellious. She felt like a loser. And, she finds cards. She tries to get rid of the cards, whatever, many times. And it keeps finding her. And she goes through this whole awakening, and it changes her life and the people's life around her as well. And I'm still listening to the book. It's a series. So it's All Our Hidden Gifts, again, by Caroline O'Donoghue. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the story. So I'm blocked. I wish that girl well. I'm not mad at her at all because I know that she was just a play in my story, and I've had many different versions of her of like accepting my purpose, not only accepting it but speaking up about it and being bold and being a light worker, being a healer, whatever you want to call it, being a person in this life, being a, person that wants to self-improve and advance. You heal other people by healing yourself. I believe all our stories are meant to be shared, whether it's shared on a platform or shared to your kids or shared to someone in the street or shared to a friend. That's how we heal. We learn from each other. That is how we, build community. That's how we connect. That's how we advance. So this definitely was a push that I needed. I'm grateful for every lesson. I wish that girl well. I genuinely have no mad blood. She isn't the first whatever to reject me in my life. I've been rejected a lot. It's a lot of stories where that came from. If you made it to the end, if you listened, I love you so much. I know this, whatever, but I said I was going to talk. It's going to be podcast style. This is a podcast. Why does a podcast need to be in Spotify? It's a video podcast. That's how it is, okay? I love you so much. And yeah, you guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. That's my story, and I love you. You have a great day. Bye, guys.